set up the game of hearts, first, set up the deck. To do this, first remove any jokers or extra cards from the deck. The game will be played with a standard 52-card deck. Next, select a dealer. The dealer will deal cards one at a time from the deck to each player. In a 3-player game, remove the 2 of diamonds from the game. Deal out the remaining cards, so each player gets 17 cards. In a 4-player game, don't remove any cards from the deck. Deal out the entire deck so that each player receives 13 cards. In a 5-player game, remove the 2 of diamonds and the 2 of clubs. The remaining deck of cards will be dealt out so that each player gets 10 cards. Players can manage their hand cards in any way they choose, but it is a good idea to arrange your hand cards by suit and rank. In hearts, the 2 is the lowest ranked card, and the ace is the highest. Finally, players should get a writing utensil and some paper to keep score. After setting up the game, you are ready to begin playing. The game of hearts is a trick-taking game where players are trying to end the game with the lowest score. The object of the game is to avoid taking tricks that contain cards which score you points. The cards that score you points are hearts and the queen of spades. To start the game of hearts, the player holding the 2 of clubs will play it face up in the middle of the playing area. If the 2 of clubs was removed from the game, which happens in a 3-player game, the player holding the 3 of clubs will play first. After the first card is played, the player to the left of the player who played the first card will play 1 card from their hand. Then the player to their left will play 1 card, and so on until each player has played 1 card. There are specific rules for playing cards. If you have a card that matches the suit of the first card played, which is known as the lead card, you must play that card. For example, the first card played in the game will always be a club. So all players must play a club from their hand if they are holding one. If and only if you do not have a card in the suit that was played first, you may play any card from your hand. For example, this player does not have any clubs in their hand, so they can play their queen of diamonds. It should be noted that no player may play a heart nor the queen of spades from their hand on the first turn of the game. The cards played face up in the middle of the table are known as a trick. After all players have played their 1 card into the trick is complete. 1 player will now take the trick. The player who played the highest ranked card will win the trick. The ranking of the cards depends on the first card that was played into the trick. Let's look at an example. In this trick, the 8 of diamonds was the first card played. Therefore, diamonds will be the ranked suit. This player did not have a diamond in their hand, so they chose to play their king of spades. The king of spades will not be ranked. Of the 3 remaining cards, the king of diamonds is the highest ranked card, so the player who played that card will take this trick. To take a trick, simply take the cards from the middle of the playing area and place them face down in your player area. To start the next trick, the player who won the last trick will play the first card of the next trick. The game of hearts is a game where points are not desirable. There are 2 types of cards that gain players points: the queen of spades, which gains a player 13 points, and heart cards, which gain a player 1 point per heart. With that in mind, players must be strategic about how they play their hearts and the queen of spades, because if you play them poorly, you will end up taking the trick with those cards and earning yourself points. As mentioned earlier, no player may play a heart nor the queen of spades on the first trick of the game. After the first trick has been taken, the player holding the queen of spades is now free to play it. They may use it to both start a new trick or play it into a trick led by another player. For example, if spades were led, this player would have to play their king of spades, because it is the only spade they have. This player could then have a good opportunity to play their queen of spades, because they know the king of spades is higher ranked than the queen, and that player will have to take the queen of spades in the trick and take points. Heart cards have slightly different rules than the queen of spades. Hearts may not be played on the first trick of the game, but they may also not be led until a heart or the queen of spades has been played into a trick. So, for example, if this was not the first turn of the game, and this player had no diamonds in their hand to add to this trick, they could get rid of one of their heart cards. That player has now broken in the hearts, and now any player may start a trick with a heart card. Alternatively, playing the queen of spades will also break in the hearts. After the queen of spades has been played, any player may lead a trick with a heart card. Tricks of heart cards are ranked in the same way as any other suit of cards. So in this example, the 3 of hearts was the first card played in this trick. Therefore, only the heart suit will be ranked. So in this example, the player who played the ace of hearts will take this trick. In general, it is a good idea to avoid taking hearts and the queen of spades in tricks, because each of these cards earns you points, and points can ultimately lose you the game. There is, however, one exception to this rule. That is the situation known as shooting the moon. If you happen to be able to win all 13 of the heart cards, and take the queen of spades in the tricks you win, you will score 0 points, and give each other player in the game 26 points. This is a potentially risky move, but if you succeed, it gives a huge reward. Play will continue in this fashion, with each player playing 1 card into the trick, 1 player winning the trick, and the player who won the last trick starting the next trick. This will continue until all players have run out of their hand cards. After all hand cards have been played, each player will complete their scoring for the round. To score the round of hearts, each player will look at the tricks they took during that round. They will separate out all of the heart cards and the queen of spades from the other cards in the tricks. For each heart card that player has, they will score 1 point. So this player would score 5 points. The player who ended up with the queen of spades will score 13 points for that card. So this player scored a total of 18 points. Each player will write down their score at the end of the round. To make sure the score was done correctly, add up all of the players' scores for the round. If all scores were counted correctly, the total of the scores should be 26. As mentioned earlier, there is one exception to the normal rule of scoring. If one player collected all of the hearts and the queen of spades through the tricks they won, they have completed the task of shooting the moon. That player will score 0 points, and all other players will score 26 points. After completing scoring, deal a new hand and start the next round of hearts. The game of hearts is typically played until one player reaches or exceeds a score of 100 points, or 50 points for a shorter game. The player who ends the game with the lowest score is the winner.